What happens when a former corporate exec turns her no BS lens towards sex, love, and relationships? Briana Bass is a therapist and board-certified sexologist who helps high-functioning people cut through pattern, heal their intimacy, and transform their lives. In this conversation, we're diving into the raw truth about modern dating, burnout, and the messy, beautiful intersection of ambition and desire. I'm Dr. Willow Brown here with Leah Piper. We are your co-hosts for the Sex Reimagined Podcast. We are so grateful for all your wonderful likes, shares, and subscribes. Keep them coming. And we cannot wait to dive into today's conversation.
That is right. And so, my friends, if you've been with us for a while, you know what to do. And if you're new to the show, then this is your chance to tune in, oh baby, turn on, and fall in love with Brianna.
Welcome to the Sex Reimagined Podcast, where sex is shame-free and pleasure-forward. Let's get into the show.
So excited to have you.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I love our group here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really curious. You started off as an executive and then you found yourself in the world of therapy, helping couples and individuals. So tell us a little bit about what caused you to pivot into a different industry professionally.
Yeah, corporate America it's tough. You got to behave in a way that you might not feel like is ideal or aligns with your values and whatnot. And so all of that environment, I eventually, kind of had enough. And I returned to my roots. I really didn't reinvent myself. I returned to what I think my sort of more organic, authentic state was. I had my bachelor's of science in psychology and had been studying human behavior for a while. So for those reasons, it felt actually like, okay, I'm going back to what I feel at home in. And ultimately in corporate, it was the most masterful education and why people do what they do. You're in this like ecosystem of people fighting for survival, trying to make decisions, balancing life and their families and all these things. So you are quite literally in a bubble of this great experiment on, what will people do? What choices will they make? What should I do to strategically change my circumstance here? So it all played into each other really, really nicely. But yeah, ultimately I made the big shift because I wasn't happy in corporate America and I felt like there was more to life. And I wasn't happy with the one life that I had been given and how I was living it.
At what point did you make this shift? Like how far into the corporate America? I've never played in that world. I can only imagine like how sort of like soul sucking it might feel because you have to put on like different masks and different facades in order to kind of survive in it seems like.
You're completely right. You do have to put in different masks, different facades. You do have to survive in that way. We call that, the technical term is cognitive dissonance, where, that's the technical term for that. We see it in relationships a lot and things like that. But I talk about that a lot with people. But I was pretty far in. So I was senior vice president, I believe it was in my last role. So I had climbed that corporate ladder. I had put in a lot of work to get there. And then I get to some of those top rungs and jump ship, which felt really ridiculous, right? Talk about sunk cost. You're going, oh my goodness, I've invested all of this. Am I really going to hit this eject button now? And I sure did. I've never regretted, not for one moment.
That's good. So how long ago was that?
Oh, maybe 5 years ago, something like that.
Okay. So right before the pandemic, kind of?
Yes. Yeah.
Was that a tricky time then? Because you worked, got to the top, then jumped ship, and then fucking COVID hit.
Yes, exactly. COVID for me, though, I used unintentionally, but in hindsight, as this catalyst to put these pieces in line. Like we heard of other people that were like, actually, I'm going to go back to doing pottery, or I'm going to
I'm going to go back to school.
Yeah. So many people, or they were like, I'm getting divorced. I'm sick of this. I'm out.
Yeah.
Like so many divorces happen. Yeah. There you go. Exactly. Yeah. Me too. I've been doing that also. So it's like, which, I think that was a spawn of it. So yeah, COVID for me, reshifted focus like so many of us. So same thing where we thought, wait a minute, when I really look at if my loved ones were taken away, if I was taken away, if I, really made you think about this one chance and how delicate life was and how this thing was such a threat to our everyday existence. And it was like, oh my God. And so everybody's priorities just got
What
this
matters.
incredible amount of attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, let's make some different decisions.
So what do you think? I know that you work with a lot of couples, probably couples that have been in a relationship for a long time. And as we know, a lot of sex gets a little routine, can start to get a little boring, becomes a little sexless the longer people are together. And then you have people who are just longing for the beloved, longing for the one, and feeling like they're failing at dating. What do you think? I think especially for couples, what do you think couples are getting wrong when it comes to sex?
Yeah, to your point, right, about understanding, first off, I would say you need to understand biology. You need to understand neuroscience, and that's kind of my focus, and like why we do what we do so that you can delineate between there's an issue in this relationship or I am facing, I'm quote broken, like many women and men come in saying, versus, hey, my body's doing this thing that's actually rather predictable and it's just a part of how we operate. So for example, right, in the beginning, when we're having sex and a relationship is new, sex feels more effortless because of novelty. That newness is so intoxicating, and your brain does this phenomenal job of flooding you with
best
dopamine,
Yeah.
dopamine, norepinephrine, oxytocin. All these things are happening. You have a lot of vasopressin too because you're trying to impress each other, and all these things, and you're waiting on their texts, and it feels so exciting and fun. So what people don't realize is all that extra periphery and all that extra stuff and all those neurotransmitters and all these mechanisms firing are absolutely contributing to your sex life being awesome. And when that novelty, that newness, that initial period is removed, then those things that I just talked about really, really, really taper down. So therefore, you would probably have less sex, maybe less exciting, or all sorts of things, less frequency, whatever. So that's exhibit A. I think couples really need to understand that so they don't misinterpret the house being on fire or there being some incredible issue when it is kind of normal, typical.
Totally. Yeah. I call it the ooh la la phase. When you've got that cocktail that is just so easy to access when you're dating somebody new and all those ooh la las come on. And then I think the love gets established and you start to find security as you start to define the relationship and what you mean to each other. And then that brain chemistry is much harder to access, but the love is deep. So then you lean into the love and you're not necessarily leaning so much into the sexual eros of it all. But then usually someone starts to complain, like, what's wrong? Because we're not horny like we used to be. Or you're not horny like you used to be. Sometimes we're blaming one person for the lack of desire. Is that been the case for you, that you've got one partner going, I want more sex, and the other partner feeling like pressure and obligation and like they just don't feel connected to it in the same way?
Absolutely. And there are some gender sort of influences on that. I'd have to say, of course, that for the most part, it's the men saying, not always, of course not, but
Right.
generally speaking, the men are, maybe desiring it more and the females not so much. And, I've had people bring in their wives and say, can you fix her?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I believe it.
100%. And so as far as what I teach my men, and I know everyone's heard this, but I don't care because it seems to not be all that sticky, is that, men have sex to feel connected and women have sex when they feel connected. So we can all see the issue there. That's an issue.
Mhm,
We're going like totally different directions. So men will tie sex directly to their identity, love, validation, all sorts of things like that, versus women often tie sex to different criteria. And so there's a lot of differences I see between, the men and women coming in and how they operate in the space of sex. But definitely the most dominant one is that her and I just had a fight, or we're in a rough spot. So let me go ahead and reach for her, which is beautiful, right? That's his attempt to say, let me make this feel better. Let us get connected. Let us have sex or even a makeout or hook up in some kind of way.
Mhm.
And this is when she's the most repulsed. And she's like, no, we just had a fight, or things are in a lull right now, or we've been having resentment lately, or conflict, or I tried to come to you about this problem I was having at work and it turned into XYZ. And so, no, this is when I want to reject you the most. So for them to identify that pattern is happening, one, breathes weakness into the male side where he's like, okay, it isn't about my masculinity, my validation, my identity. This is coming from her end, and she's feeling a certain kind of way. And for those reasons, her intimacy, her arousal isn't like firing on all cylinders. And for the female, she's seeing it as kind of a dick move. Like, what? Why are you using me like an object or chasing me like a piece of meat or leaning into this thing that feels very intimate for me when we're not in this great place? And so for her kind of learning, that's actually his attempt at connecting with you, reaching for you, wanting to improve the circumstances. I think that understanding that helps a lot.
Yeah, that is super useful for all couples who are dealing with that, which is many, many, many couples. Now, let's say you've got a couple you're working with who they may understand it, but they're still kind of stuck in the, well, fuck you, don't get close to me. I am in a mood, I am in a state, and he's just like, well, I don't know what else to do. Like, that's the only thing he can think of. Like, then where do you guide them from there?
The first thing I would talk to them about is probably the 8 forms of intimacy. So outside of, sex, what other things are we doing as far as intimacy is concerned? So the 7 other ways, right? So how are we connecting there? Because it's going to be the case that sex takes a dip, or we feel stuck, or where do I go from here? That 8 forms of emotional intimacy, and looking at those, especially for men, right? Very literal, very tangible. You can truly
like,
look
great,
at it like
give
a to-do
me a
list.
checklist. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's one that's like an easy win where I'm like, okay, this sort of feels like a checklist, and it's like a very easy to understand and to grasp. And hopefully, but very likely, by investing in those other 7 forms of intimacy, the non-sex ones, it should bleed over and improve that 8th one. And especially again on the female side, per our conversation a moment ago, that as he makes her feel more safe, maybe they take a walk together, they go see a show together, or they have some intellectual conversation. He listens to her about her day, they cook a meal together. I don't know, whatever these things are. Could be spiritual. It spans a quite diverse range. So there's kind of something for everyone, and you can sprinkle it across them all, right? And some of them are naturally happening in your day to day. But as we go on and we get in our routines and we orbit around each other, we just lose some of it. It's natural. It happens. So I would talk with them about where are we at with these 7 other forms. And you know what? Maybe let's just even put the sex thing on ice and just focus on these 7 other things. And then we'll circle back to that.
So you have to tell our listeners what the 7 other forms of intimacy
give us some examples. I think I heard you say like a spiritual connection, like if they have a shared sort of faith that they can bond over, like cooking together, having experiences. But could you give us a few more examples?
Yeah, I feel like I have them memorized. So there's emotional, which is going to be, I felt today at work like an imposter. I was in this meeting and it felt like I didn't know what to say, even though I'd studied it. And for your partner to just receive that vulnerability from you and that emotional moment and say, oh, that sounds awful. I've experienced that feeling too. And it's the worst, right? And for my men, we're not going to try to solve it or tell her that she should study more or
this is what you should have said, or this is what
you shouldn't feel that way, because you are great. I see the beauty in all of that, but reminder not to solve. You can get to that, right? But when someone kind of throws you that ball, I talk about throwing the ball a lot. When she throws you that ball, just receive it and hold it, observe the ball, and talk about the ball itself if you feel stuck. So if I've got a male and she's come to me and said this thing, and I'm like, I don't know what to say back. Everywhere I step is a bomb and a landmine. We'll talk about the ball then. Talk about the ball. Oh,
that's
so
good.
you
I like
were in
that
meeting.
analogy. That's a good one.
Yeah.
You were in that meeting and the ball, the meeting, the imposter syndrome, that kind of thing, right? It's like another like layup. The other forms are, wish I had these written down right now, intellectual. So intellectual. Yeah, that's you all connecting on something intellectual, right? So now we're
like
talking
a book you
about
just read or a podcast episode you just heard.
Absolutely. Or your personal maybe thought or take on something that sort of has like an intellectual spin to it. That all counts. Another thing is goal planning. So we're talking about next year we want to go to Europe. what will we need to save a month? What will we need to do to reach this common shared interest, this common shared goal? So any kind of financial planning.
So
we want kid to go to this college. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to say it.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to say it. They should replace that with dreaming together. But the other ways are experiential. So that's going and golfing together while she sits in the cart, or taking an art class together. So neither one of you are good and have any idea what you're doing, and you're just like stick figuring it and like being like, those kinds of things. So we're
My husband and I just
experiencing
did
something.
that.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
I dragged him. I love to dot paint. I mean, this is like an old one.
You took Matt to dot painting?
I did.
Oh, I love those things.
He
Did he
painted
like
a ladybug.
Did he like it? That's cute.
Bless him.
What a sweetheart.
I mean, he doesn't need to go to another one, but like he can.
Exactly.
Yeah, but he came. Would probably go again if I asked him.
Yeah. Okay. So
Exactly right,
experiential.
though, that like you guys weren't even, great at it, or it's not even his thing necessarily, right? Maybe it's more swayed towards you. And then the next time, like, you can go do something that you're like, okay, I'll go see that Marvel movie.
Like I'll go to the gym with
whatever.
them. Right.
And it could be maybe something that like neither one of you are very good at. Let's go learn how to do tango together or something,
Yeah. Go take
Yeah,
a pickleball
something
class.
experiential. Or even just going to the beach. Let's go to the beach together and like walk in the sand.
I always drag him
Anything
to like,
simple.
cooking classes when we travel. I mean, he rarely cooks at home, but still, it's like, you have those shared experiences together. And sometimes you do something that may not be as interesting to you, but you do it because it's something that they are excited about.
Absolutely. So, and think of how you would internalize that, right? Even further, it's so layered. It'd be so much even further than this experiential thing that you're sharing. You'd be like, wow, they're willing to show up for me and do this that, they don't really get a lot out of it. And I know that.
Right.
This isn't their thing. And so they're just showing up for me in this way to make me feel seen and nurtured and cared for. And important.
So sweet.
Yeah, and to spend time with me. Yeah, like it makes you feel like you matter, Like, I mean, look at the smile on my face. Like just remembering the fact that he painted a butterfly and he painted a ladybug and he made a little jar, and the shit he's never going to use, we'll probably throw them away. But regardless, like,
the experience.
what a
Experiential.
good guy. Like, it just makes me love him so much that he makes that effort,
He's going to get
So
good sex
sweet.
later.
Oh my God. Like, I call them boner points. When
boner
they
points.
really
I
are
love
doing
that.
something great, I'm like, oh my God, 10 boner points for you. And he's like,
Yeah.
when do I get to cash in these boner points? I'm like, he's got 1 million by now. We've been married for 10 years. I'm like, dude, anytime. That's what boner points are for.
Exactly my point, though. You felt arousal. You feel like some sort of openness and safety and like, these boner
Connection.
points. There's
You're-
like this, it's
she's
translating
now-
directly into
Exactly.
willingness and interest in sex.
Yeah. And there's a cherishing. Like, I feel really cherished by him that he makes that effort. And it makes me want to cherish him. Like, it's a loop.
Yeah.
Right? We're creating new circuits when we put effort into our partnership.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
awesome. Okay, we got 2 more to go. You're doing good, girl. What are the last 2?
Okay, spiritual is another one. I'm glad you're counting because I am not. So yes,
I'm writing them
spiritual.
down.
Okay. Spiritual, right? We're connecting on spiritual. I need to figure out like better definitions of these things. They're just self-explanatory.
Yeah,
So you
spiritual
could be,
makes
you
sense.
could be, you could talk about like existential stuff, like why are we all here and what do we think? Where you share, if you're not necessarily religious and maybe you're not participating in some sort of sect, like going to church or something, you do something else that makes you feel connected. So maybe it's a walk, but in particular, you all believe in nature and us, whatever it is, it's kind of your thing, but it has some sort of spiritual nature to it. That's a completely different category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, there's
Totally.
1 more to go. So we've got
The-
emotional, sexual,
yeah.
intellectual, dreaming together. We're renaming that one from goal setting.
Okay. Which is
Experi-
financial. Yeah.
Okay. Experiential and spiritual. So one.
Did we say sexual?
Creative.
creative.
I listed it. Creative
Okay.
is the last one? Yeah.
Creative. Yeah. Creative is the last one. And that's you guys doing something together that has creativity. And it doesn't have to be even with your hands, although
like
that's
maybe
cool
in the
too.
garden or,
Yeah.
or in the
Yeah.
house.
A project together.
Project in the
Yeah.
house. It
Love
could be even more simple than that because I really want people to take away that these things can be, you can come across them in already existing moments throughout your day.
It can be very nuanced. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
and
even
these things don't
breathing
need
together could be
planning.
spiritual and creative, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep. You're
sexual.
exactly right.
Like
Yeah.
sometimes
they
it's like
all
this-
start to kind of form together.
Like creating plans for the weekend or deciding what you're going to do for the birthday party for, kid number 2 or
Yeah.
cooking together or having a garage sale together, something, that takes effort that you both contribute. Maybe redecorating the bedroom.
A big one that I talk
Though
about
I wouldn't trust
is,
my husband to redecorate the bedroom.
yeah, maybe
I'm
he
like, I'll help you
just
redecorate your man
supports
cave.
you. Maybe he's just
He can
there
move
for
the
emotional
furniture.
support.
Yeah.
Another one I talk about that's very accessible and again, like very literal is watching TV together, which we're all doing that, right? But if you choose not to just sit shoulder to shoulder and just like in silence watch, but instead like think of like watching Real Housewives or some trashy reality TV. You guys are both like, I mean, you've seen a couple watch 90 Day Fiancé together or something. They're both going, what an idiot. Can you believe they just did that? Or the female saying, well, she did it because of whatever. And maybe he's saying, yeah, but she, and you kind of banter and back and forth about what you're watching. That definitely counts. That's a big one that like people are like, oh, okay, I can do that one. I can do that one.
Yeah. Watching
That's
a show
funny,
that you
that-
both really like together.
That one would bug me because I don't like anyone to talk when I'm watching a show.
Oh, really? I think like sometimes we got into Love on the Spectrum and it was just like, oh my
That's
God, this is
sweet.
so sweet. Like
That's really sweet.
we both just felt like so opened and it
Yeah.
reminded us of like, the importance of things. We had good conversations as a result
Yeah.
of watching something really sweet together. I remember we also watched Blue Eye Samurai, which had some really great naughty cartoon scenes. And it was like, we got to talk about, well, look at that. There was this house of pleasure and you have like these threesomes happening. And anyways, we had fun conversations over just a sex in a cartoon. Who would have thought? So if anyone hasn't seen Blue Eyed Samurai on Netflix, highly recommend.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
All right, so now the woman he's like gone to these 7 other things. They're now more intimately connected. So now she's more open to sexuality, right? So then how does he then get his need filled up through sexuality, feeling more connected for himself?
Well, one, I would say the frequency, the quality, things like that should typically be improved from the investment across the 7. So not only are we back to like having sex, let's say, but ideally it would be of higher quality. And to be really crystal clear about that, that doesn't necessarily mean, performative or a better show or more porn-like. So another piece to kind of answer that about the guy getting his needs met and feeling like, this is all going well or the sex life, this 8th level of intimacy is also getting some traction. It would be, being incredibly curious in the bedroom, trying not to be so mission oriented, meaning like straight to orgasm or that being like the goal. That's the goal. I need to get her there. And or on his end, right? Same thing, because both partners can feel that pressure and feel a little bit of stress. And as soon as we have pressure in the bedroom or stress about anything, whether it be getting to a goal or a fight you recently had, absolutely anything, even work, it zaps intimacy. It is such a killer, especially for women. We get into fight or flight really easy in sex. And anytime we're in fight or flight, intimacy, it just falls out the window.
And
it sure
climax is
does.
really hard to reach
Yeah.
during those moments of stress, or if we're in our head and we're thinking about the list and we're thinking about,
Or we're thinking that we need to get to the orgasm in order to make
Yes.
him feel like he's a
100%.
sexual virtuoso.
Yeah, right,
know?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. Yeah, there's a pressure that a lot of women face from thinking I've got to get there because if I don't, he's going to ask me or maybe feel a certain way, which is really beautiful, right? He's concerned. He's like, oh gosh, I wasn't good or, whatever. I see the beauty in it.
Right.
But it can be a killer, right? Because she's going,
Mhm.
oh no, versus just enjoying the interaction despite of reaching that or not.
Okay, so it sounds like we have to build trust. And we use these different types of intimacy to build more trust so that because I think for a lot of women, they need to feel safe in order to open up sexually. And it's one of the reasons why when there's a fight or a rupture, that trust and safety also feels like it's been ruptured. And it's why we can't just land and open our body and say, okay, take me now, for a lot of women, not everyone. So I can see how the intimacy kind of rebuilds some of that safety and that trust within our connection. But what about novelty? Because I think what's happening with a lot of women is they are not in the mood because frankly, they're not having the sex that they want. And they don't really know what how to say the type of sex that they want. But I think novelty is a part of the answer to that. It's wanting to kind of be ravished and be taken and not have to manage one more thing in their world that she's in charge of. So there's a decision fatigue sometimes that I think swamps a woman's ability to sustain arousal. What do you have to say about how to give her the sex that she wants? It's not just about fucking and checking it off the list. Okay, we've had sex, we're a success. It's how do we have good sex?
Yeah, the thing with the whole talking, to go to that point first. So they did a study recently. I'd cite it if I could. I don't know, everyone Google it. But essentially they looked at a substantial amount of couples from all backgrounds and age ranges, and those that were having good sex versus those that didn't feel that they were, and tried to find like, what is the common denominator here? And the common denominator, shockingly, was not toys in the bedroom or the novelty. It was the ability to talk openly and very comfortably about the topic of sex. That's what it was that they found was the biggest common denominator. And I have found that in my practice, that if I have a couple or one partner and we talk about sex, I will eventually and very intentionally ask them about, some of the conversations. And sure enough, just about every time they're very clunky, or it feels taboo, it feels very uncomfortable. They sort of, squirm or, something like that, right? So there's this incredible connection between the ability to communicate very openly about your bedroom life with your partner that yields good results also in the bedroom. They kind of just tie into one another. So, what did you ask me?
So no, you're answering the question.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Because it's really about having the type of sex that you want.
You got to talk about it.
Yeah, it's like I would want more sex if you could give me the sex that I want.
Good.
But a lot of times they don't even know what the sex is that they want. They just know they don't want what they're getting.
Right.
And so I think a lot of people stay stuck in, I don't like what I'm getting. But what's really unhelpful is they don't say what it is that they want that could be different. Yeah. Or we get so defensive in the conversation that we don't know how to have this conversation well, where, like, I think the word you used earlier was curious. Can we be so curious about our partner? Yeah. We want to know what they think and what they feel and what opens them and what closes them and, what they think about. I mean, what I've come to see in my own life and also working with students is, even if we're talking about fantasies, like, it doesn't mean that because I have this fantasy, I need you to play out the fantasy with me. It's the closeness that happens when you know this part of me, that I have this little kinky, corner I go to that turns me on, and I trust you so much that I'm sharing this part of myself with you. And no, I don't want to play it out. There's a lot of shit we desire that we don't actually want to experience. It's more a delight in our mind than it is something we would delight in person. That's kind of what I'm imagining when I hear you say that.
You're exactly right. And that's an example of exactly what I'm trying to talk about, which is that it's not even necessarily that the goal or objective in talking about it was to go act on something, although it can be. Just the connection from the verbal communication, the showing yourself, the unzipping yourself. There's so much vulnerability in it. Talking about sex, talking about the bedroom absolutely will improve and translate into feeling more present in the bedroom. It also kills insecurity sometimes, right? So anytime we can name a problem, everyone knows that, right? Like, admitting a problem, really makes it shrink. So
the charge comes off of it a bit.
Yeah, it does, right? So, when we can discuss something openly and in a really safe way, and safe meaning, like, is this person going to judge me? Are they going to snarl? Are they going to weaponize this against me? They're going to throw it in my face when we argue. It's going to be used against me. Or are they going to receive the ball that I'm throwing and it's going to go okay? So if we can kind of get to that space with talking, it really will be a testament to overall the investment you're making in this partnership and how connected you all are. So if you've got a couple that the sex isn't happening, we're doing the 8 forms of intimacy. I think that's certainly step 1, or like a really top couple. The other piece with that would be, instead of us feeling like we have this mountain to climb where they're going to go have this like porn star, the toys and back to the novelty thing, sex, what if we just mastered discussing it, just talking about it? That feels far more achievable and sometimes less scary. It depends, but sometimes less scary. So we could just start with having really beautiful conversations about how a partner feels or thinks. And you can even go so back to that where it's like the least close to actually sex and talk about like what you saw your parents do, your relationship with sex as you were growing up. What happened if a scene came on the TV? Did someone be like, gross, or I don't know why they include this, or they turned it off, or, what was the birds and bees talk like from your parents? Those are kind of like funny,
Those are really
sometimes
good.
conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really good, like actual questions and cues and things for people to talk about. Because, gosh, as you're sitting here talking about, have more open conversations about sexuality, I'm like, I am so far down the other side of the spectrum where I talk about sex all day long with every single person that I meet. So like, I can't. It's hard for me.
You're like, you want to talk anal?
Yeah, I'm like, it's hard for me. I have to like curb my conversation with people, right? I have to dial it down. So it's hard for me to even relate that
So are you
anyone isn't
dumb or you a
talking
snob?
about it. So I'm really appreciative of these specific questions, like a good starting point for a couple,
Yeah.
like I often will ask people, what's your relationship to your sexuality? And that even can be sometimes a little bit too much of a daunting question. Like, I don't know. They don't have an answer for it.
It can feel really broad to receive what's your relationship like with sex, unless you've got like a little bit more of a senior client that's kind of like a therapy veteran. And I think a great way to walk that back and make it more bite-sized to kind of like get them there is the whole birds and bees talk. What'd you see on the TV? What did mom and dad say? Did you ever walk in on them? Did you see one kiss another?
Was there an MTV video that really turned you on? You know which one turned me on, you guys? Was White Wedding. Remember that?
Really?
MTV
I like
video?
November Rain.
That one was hot too.
That is a great question.
Yeah, that's a good one for you all out there.
But I like that. Like, who taught you about sex?
Yeah,
And what did
where'd
the
you
church have to say about sex? What did
Yeah.
your parents? Were your parents virginal, or where did they overexpose you to sex? I mean, there's all these things that happen that do inform our conditioned response,
And
can help you
also-
understand your partner and their reactions a ton.
Yeah,
If you can get underneath like what that was like as in their formative years, because it's there.
I think too, like what was your first sexual experience like? Did you enjoy it? Because I feel like for a lot of women, they just kind of go through it and do it and fumble and and guys are like they're like, yeah, I enjoyed it, but I just still was just making it up as I went along and didn't really know. And so even just for yourself to speak that out loud with a partner, like identifying what was that first couple of sexual experiences like for you. I remember kissing a boy in the closet with like skates digging into my back. My girlfriend's roller skates, and we were in the closet. We were like 16 years old, and we were making out in the closet. And I was like so uncomfortable because I had fucking roller skates in my back. The kissing wasn't good. It was 16-year-old didn't know what we were doing, but
I'm
those
curious.
I love that question.
Now, do your clients come to you with things like they're getting over cheating, infidelity, trauma, or, they did share something really vulnerable? Maybe it's a kink that they have, maybe it was something and the other partner's just judging them and shaming them. Like, how could that ever turn you on? And they're totally stuck because one person's in disgust and the other person's like crushed. You just yucked my yum. And how do we get through that?
Yeah, I don't so much have partners that shared, a kink or something like that, and the receptivity just wasn't there. The reason why I think I don't see that very much is I think that the clients coming to me wouldn't even be in a position on their own where they'd be sharing that kink to even be and have the opportunity to have the client or the partner reject them or make them experience shame. So I think my clients are being, very discerning and incredibly buttoned up and maybe not entirely forthcoming. So that's probably why I wouldn't see that. So not that the kinks don't exist and aren't there.
Right.
It's that they would sort of be fighting against the typical therapy client if they already were in a position to sort of share this thing about them. My clients typically know that maybe would not land well and would anticipate shame and judgment from their partner and then avoid it
Gotcha.
entirely.
What about infidelity?
Infidelity, absolutely. I see people that are recovering from infidelity or are trying to repair after such a big rupture. And it can be quite painful. And I have all the empathy for that. And it's certainly understandable. And you've got these, really hard thing with that is holding space for both partners' experience with this, because you feel like
Right.
you want to just emphasize the quote victim, right? The person that was cheated on. But we have to also, for things to really work, focus on the cheater in that they got there perhaps for some reason. I'm not making excuses for them. That's different. But a lot of times when we choose to cheat, there was some sort of journey. There was some origin story to that villain, right? Hey,
Right.
I felt like a loser in my house. I felt insecure. I felt like my masculinity was being questioned, or I didn't feel desired as a woman. And there was this guy and he made me feel seen and special and heard. And so when we do therapy, we have to talk about all of that too, because it's incredibly valuable. But
Yeah.
that's difficult, right? Because it does feel like I'm making excuses for the partner, or they're getting to sort of tell their justifications. And it's not about that. It's simply, if we really want to understand each other and rebuild from this incident, then we will have to look at kind of all these contributing factors. And then as far as sort of enacting things that would improve the circumstance, it's one, walking through the noise, right? Talking in a controlled setting about the pain that this caused the partner, and then again listening in a non-judgmental way about how the other partner got there to begin with, and going to those basics with the intimacy again. Maybe sex is not going to be on the table for a while. It just feels too unsafe. So we're going to build safety in some of those other categories to kind of get back there. And then another thing about recovering from infidelity is that we do want to have quite boundary setting conversations. Like, what do you guys want this to look like moving forward? From, are we sharing each other's phone passwords? Are we tracking locations? What does that look like for you? Are you wanting check-ins now when they leave? What is it that you're asking for? What are your asks to help you sort of get through some of this hump?
Right. Yeah, I imagine that could be a place where people get really stuck. It's like sometimes there can be the asks are because the trust has been so shattered. The asks might feel like really invasive or controlling.
Mhm.
And how much right do you have to go, no, I'm actually not okay. I'm not willing to do that. Can we find a workaround? I bet people get stalled right there.
They absolutely do. And you're right. And that's couple by couple. It's not for me to say. As someone's going,
Right.
hey, this is where I'm at right now. I need your phone password. I want your location shared. I want check-ins. Okay, all right. They can ask for it. And so let's have a conversation about that. And if the other partner's going, absolutely not, that feels that just feels maniacal, and I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not going to do that. Okay. And now at least we're in this controlled setting where the other partner can say, I'm internalizing that then as, you still don't love me. You don't care enough about the pain that I'm in to do those things, to jump through these hoops. And then we can talk about that. So
Okay.
no matter what, great, productive, valuable conversation points that's a part of the infidelity sort of treatment, is figuring out, what does this need to look like? What's realistic? What are the partner's asks? What are your boundaries? Is there a before and is there kind of an after this incident? And, how we're going to behave differently.
What's a typical sort of journey that a couple will go through when they're working with you? I mean, do they kind of come in and just start with no sort of like a 3-month container, or do you sort of hold them in sections of containment, sort of as they're going through their evolution together?
What are you asking? Like, what's the length of time?
Yeah, just like, is it kind of open-ended? Like, sometimes you step into therapy and it's like, oh, I'm just going to go to therapy once a week for the rest of my life. And other times there's more like this is a 3-month journey and then we'll
Yeah.
reassess.
Yeah. Have you noticed like a pattern of time that someone really needs to have some stick-to-itness? Because I could see how people, they start the process, it gets hard, and then they just give up.
Yeah. you
Like,
could
I
also,
imagine having
let
like,
her out.
you need to commit to this because there's going to be moments where you're going to want to quit. And there needs to be some accountability for you sticking with it. I don't know. How does that work?
Yeah, you're right in that, it's got to have some longevity to it for us to really move this needle. This isn't like a when you feel like it or on occasion thing, right? So I hope that somebody is committed to coming in at a cadence that makes sense for growth. So weekly, every other week, something like that. But if somebody drops off, I really don't do anything about that. I mean, I might shoot someone a text and say, just checking in with you, but that's the limit.
Yeah.
Everyone takes their own approach. My personal approach is you use your free will. If you don't feel comfortable continuing to invest in this, I'm not going to pursue or chase you.
Sure.
I have a very we're all adults here kind of thing with it. But as far as sort of getting ahead of it, I will discuss with people what this path ahead may look like. And I will talk with them about it may get worse before it gets better. I'll also talk with people about emotional hangovers and that you're coming in here. We're not talking about what's going great. We're typically only talking about bad stuff. So if you're coming in and just offloading, hey, I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling insecure. I've lost myself. I'm lonely. This is what I'm facing in my relationship. You're maybe not going to be walking out, frolicking through daisies. You might have a little bit of a dark cloud over you for a couple of days. So I get ahead of some stuff to kind of dispel it. And again, like the theme of today, when you talk about it, it really sort of pops this big, heavy bubble. And so we'll talk about that. I'll talk about an appropriate cadence that I recommend weekly, biweekly. And I will also talk about, if you are in a relationship as couples, therapy, something that you're interested in. And we'll cross that bridge when someone gets there. Because more often than not, I'm even surprised by it. Individuals will come in with the intention of couples coming, but they'll go by themselves first to feel things out. Perhaps, especially if they feel like the other party is a little bit more resistant, they're going to want to try to curb the risk. Maybe they're thinking, I know I'm only going to drag them in here one time. So I got to make sure, this goes okay. And I get an understanding of this environment because, it's got to go well when I bring them in. I'm dragging them with me. So I see that a lot as well. But, I personally was in therapy for, 3 or 4 years. And I really want people to understand that you might come in for a crisis. I know I'm biased, but I'm going to encourage everyone to go even when that crisis comes. You still have decades of life before that crisis and patterns and deep-seated things and, that stuff. I'm not saying it takes years to dismantle. I'm saying that just this journey of life is something that, on a week-to-week basis throws you additional lemons that you've got to navigate. And some of these voices in our head have been that way for 30 years, 40 years.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Voices and old patterns of protection run so deep.
They've been going on for so long that it's going to take a minute to repattern, how you want to respond to it.
I'm curious if you do any kind of somatic release, like getting into the physicality of the body, or if a lot of the therapy that you're using is more geared toward
cognitive.
Cognitive, and also conversational, and giving them tools and how to have conversation and communication and all that.
I don't do somatic work. If someone is really interested in that, I will refer them out.
Okay.
Mine is based on neuroscience, so the brain, so helping people understand why we do what we do from a biological standpoint.
Oh, cool.
And also EFT, which is called emotionally focused therapy, and CBT, which everyone's familiar with, or a lot of people are, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. Those are both sort of a cognitive type of nature, sort of intellectual kind of thing happening there. EFT, emotionally focused therapy, is my favorite, though, above all. And that is because I myself struggle with that the most on a personal level. So for me and my journey, EFT is what took me to the next level of self-actualization and quality of life and all of that.
What does it stand for again? EFT?
Emotionally focused therapy.
Emotionally focused. Okay. So tell us a little bit about that process and how that goes.
Yeah. And I think it really is phenomenal and really, really, really checks a lot of boxes for people that are in corporate America or neurotic, high achievers, ambitious people, things like that. Because getting into EFT is
Type
something
A,
that you're
kind of more rigid kind of people who have a hard time feeling their emotional body.
Yeah,
I have
that's
the hardest
exactly
time
right.
coaching those people because I'm like, can you just feel? They're like, no, don't feel anything. I'm like, come
Yeah.
on, it's in there. And they just have no
Yeah.
sensation. So, okay, I'm so excited about EFT.
Yeah.
I only know EFT as emotional freedom technique, like the tapping stuff, but this is
Mhm.
totally different.
Yes, and I know what you're talking about, right? And some people to have it as family origin therapy as well. So all the acronyms are
Oh, yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot of them.
Yeah,
They're
the
all,
overlap.
they're all in bed together, those acronyms.
Yeah, yeah. But EFT, emotionally focused therapy, right, is it's great for couples. It's primarily tailored to couples, but it applies to individuals as well, right? But if we've got somebody who quite genuinely, you know, they're not lying, as you know, they're not bluffing. I don't feel it. What do you mean? Do I feel it in my body? I'm just feel like I'm sitting here and we're talking, and that's
Right.
all I can give you. Or you'll have a client that says, I don't know, not even about their body, but just about making sense of something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see clients desperately wanting to answer me, but they can't. So I will ask them certain things sometimes as a litmus test to kind of figure out where are we
Mm.
at with this. And
Mm.
EFT really applies to those that are a little bit lost in feeling connected to themselves. For example, when I said, what result are you hoping to find? They'll eventually
Mhm.
say like clarity about something. And then I would latch onto that clarity about why is that clarity significant? And then they probably would eventually say, if I lose my health, I lose everything.
Mm.
And I would
Yeah.
say, what's it like to feel like that's even possible? That's on the
Yeah,
table. What
so
would it be
her
like to lose
a
everything?
lot of her responses were
Mhm.
like, well, strong resistance to wanting to go to the feeling part. It was
Yeah.
like, I
Mm.
and one point when I, brought it to the feeling, it was a lot of it was centered around a real resistance to want to go to that angle, instead wanting to stay solution based and not
Mm-hmm.
feeling based. She's
Yeah, but
like,
tell me
look,
what to do.
I'm
Tell me what to
super
do. I
like
get that
up
every day.
here. I'm in my head, like it's
Mhm.
not really down
Mhm.
here.
Mhm.
So, the conclusion we really got to was, what is something that you can do today? If it's not an either or, if it's not about not going down the rabbit hole, maybe the rabbit hole can be a reward. But what are two things that you could do today that would satisfy the urge of doing something that would be better, even if it's hard to like commit to,
Yeah.
and so she was able to, I'm going to put a Post-it note here, and then I'm going to get these two things done. And at the end, I'm going to, do something with my husband. So like she was able to identify and get herself out of the state of, okay, I'm just looping into avoidance. But she never really wanted to drop into the emotion, and I thought that that was really interesting.
I
And she
see. I
is this
see.
very high functioning person
Yes.
who really has
This
like not in the mood to do emotions that day.
this person is my exact client. I actually work with people that quite literally feel stuck or feel like they're suffering from procrastination, or the piles of clothes are mountains, but they're accomplishing a ton at work and all of that. So this, like what you're describing, is my exact client. I don't do anything solution based. So no Post-its, no specific this, no like holding you accountable to this diet, like, figuratively. None of
Yeah.
that, right? So for my client, I'm thinking of one, she's an older Black female, which is important because she had the exact same issue you were describing. She said, or I said, I guess, she describes like how she's living today, and she wasn't living that way before.
This is a good example of the difference between coaching and therapy.
Mm.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah,
Which I think is a
absolutely.
good thing to identify for you, with one of your questions being around sexology and therapy. So it was a good thing to highlight. I'll kind of add that into the
You're
end.
exactly right. Coaching is different. And I forget that I do have to tell people about that sometimes, because they'll want to know what is the answer, and that is coaching. Versus this woman that I was thinking of that sounds exactly like your client. She is thriving now. We're probably 8 months in, and I'm so proud of her. She's accomplishing her to-do list. So she's getting the same result as far as like the
Yeah.
Post-its, and like she's getting her life back. She has lost some weight. She did get a promotion at work. Like we're seeing the needle move in all these very tangible categories. But how we got there, because she would go home and do her own Post-its or whatever she was doing, I don't even know. That she already knew how to do, because
Isn't
she
that
lived that
cool?
life before. She'd lived that
Yeah.
life 10 years ago. What we identified, right, is she lost herself. And in this aging process and in menopause and all these things, she decided, I'm not really worth it anymore.
Hmm.
I'm not really worth it. Like, who's
Right.
watching me? No
The
one.
meaning underneath it
No
all.
one's watching me. No one knows. No one knows if
Wow.
I wash my hair and floss today, or if I just brush my teeth once. Like, no one knows. No one's watching me. So it was through that and some items with her cultural identity that she'd experienced. And that was actually how we sort of pulled out from this rut. And then she can go on her own and kind of, she knows what to employ to like make this stuff happen. And then even just coming back to me, right? Somebody who is watching now is really beautiful, right? I care and I want to hear about this. Report back to me.
Mhm.
And so that's, kind of how we did that. So yes, that makes sense. What an interesting moment, right?
I love that through osmosis, these are two people that can reach the same place, but using a different modality.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, love. So good to meet you, Brianna.
Have a great appointment.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the interview. And I
Okay.
really wish I could blow it off and keep hanging out.
We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye,
Ciao.
love.
Bye.
Bye, love. All right. So give us, just to kind of wrap up this emotional focus therapy or technique, what is sort of like, what's the kind of rundown? Like, what are you looking for when you're, supporting someone using this particular therapy?
I'm looking to help someone cut through the noise of their head and it probably being at volume 11 and exhausting. And they might be bullying themselves and have like this negative talk track. And I want to cut through all of that and strip things all the way back to the tiniest layer that we can possibly slice it to, which is, for example, I'm stressed about XYZ. And if we were to strip that back like 10 steps, it's if I don't do this, he'll leave me.
Yeah.
I won't provide value anymore.
Right.
I won't be enough. And that's what I want to work on. So I want to eat into that. And when you have high achievers or corporate people or the neurotic people, they want to go to this very intellectual space, this very cognitive space, and that's totally fair. I personally identify with that.
Yeah.
So I think EFT helps without saying, how do you feel?
Right.
But getting down to what all these fears and your patterns sort of what they mean if you were to let them go. And it's usually some sort of like, I'm going to be a loser. I'm going to be a loser.
Right. Which that is like the worst thing that these high achieving people want to be, right? This sounds like a great therapy for anyone who's like in that, in that corporate kind of mentality and world and the more just like, what's the solution and what's the goal? Like, where am I heading without, just to get them to, to take off all the layers of pressure so that they can actually identify, oh, I am afraid that underneath it all, I'll lose my partner or I'll lose my work job or whatever it is.
Yeah. And to hear someone say, I'll lose my partner, you can go so far with that. Wow.
Yeah.
So in all of this, we're afraid we'll lose our partner. What happens if you lose your partner?
Right.
I'll be alone. You'll be alone. What happens if you're alone? What's the point at that point? Right. So when we get everything back to these like very, very foundational layers, they can be quite jarring. And I think in that space, the feelings can come. And that's a great strategy for our intellectuals, our super cognitive people that are very dissociated from our body and our feelings and things like that, and say, I don't know, and I don't feel anything, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
That's a good way to get to it, because when they're behaving in all of these ways and these high achievers, there's something motivating that that's past, like to get a promotion. Okay, well, what would it mean to get the promotion? Oh, it'd mean I made more money. What would it mean to make more money? Well, I'd be able to take that trip. Oh, what would it mean to take that trip? And, at first they're like, maybe even thinking like, how dumb do you think I am? Asking me these questions, you're asking me the same question 10 times. But I guarantee you, by the end of that, they're like, damn.
Yeah.
That is what I'm afraid of.
And I like that it's oriented toward what? Like, what does it mean to, what is the catalyst underneath it all? What's really driving you? Where's your eros live? Like, where's your desire? What is it that is really like, really fueling you to behave and act and do the things that you're doing or not
so
doing?
Empowering. Yeah. And so empowering to identify that, right? So what would it mean to get the promotion? Oh, make more money. What would it mean to make more money? I'd be able to go on more trips. What would it mean to go on a tour? Whatever. And maybe we drill that all the way down into someone will want to date me. I'll be likable enough, right? Or, whatever. So we're in a place where we feel like we have to earn likability. Now we're like cracking some codes.
Yeah.
And then in them identifying that, now we can really build upon that.
What I'm really noticing, what's really cool to me, because I use a lot of somatic emotional release work, in my work. So I'm always like, where do you feel it? What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What's it telling you? Da 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 da. So it's very similar in that it's like we're digging, we're going deeper. What's underneath that? What's underneath that? But I guess I'm always approaching it more from like, where is it in your body? From a more somatic standpoint. But I love this emotional focused technique, because I think that's so valuable for people who are not oriented toward their emotions. They're more oriented toward their thoughts.
It is very valuable. And it's almost like I wonder if you and your approach or modality would be the next after
level.
they graduated.
Once they've done that. Yeah.
Yes. Then maybe they could, I'm
going to send my people to you first, who I can't get through to, and then you send yours to me.
Yeah,
once
that's exactly
we're there.
right.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I love that you made the shift, and I'm curious, maybe in closing, how has your high achievement in the executive and the corporate world, how did all of that, how has that augmented and supported your journey in doing this work and being, the high level therapist that you are, because of, everything that you had already curated inside of yourself?
I think it's afforded me this incredible ability to see through exteriors, right? And see through resumes. So understanding that very accomplished people are still suffering. Maybe even they're kind of like a little bit of a forgotten class, because they're functioning just fine.
Yeah.
Like the house isn't necessarily on fire. There's not some incredible trauma that's happening. So it's afforded me that. I also think it's made me a little bit results driven. So that's kind of nice, right? I'm like, hey, let's tackle this thing. Let's be motivated together, and let's keep some momentum. And that's all that corporate background showing up.
Yeah.
Being results, ROI, ROI. But I think that complements stuff really nicely, right? And, being able to talk with somebody who is over intellectualizing things and is trying desperately to make sense of things, but feel like they can't. However, those same approaches serve them beautifully in all their other categories of life, right? In the boardroom or at the office or even at the gym or something. Let me WebMD this and figure it out. But none of that is working. None of that's working. Because of my corporate background is how I'm able to identify that client that resonates with me, and I can explain what they're doing. And they love data. And the neuroscience angle is also really advantageous because that's helpful. So helpful.
Oh, that's so cool. I love it. I love that there's different flavors for everyone out there in the world. It's so good to know you are there and doing the work that you're doing, and and that I can send people your way who are not quite ready for my medicine. So I think it's so great, and I'm grateful that that we got to just get to know you more today and know this work that you're up to. And is there any where can people find you? What's your website, social media, places to tune into you?
Yep, website is just my name, brianabass.org. Super simple, BRIANA Bass.org. And then the socials are Briana Bass Therapy. Also easy.
Okay, cool. Great.
Yeah.
Right, love. Well, fantastic to sit with you today. And any wise words of wisdom in closing?
Go to therapy.
Go to therapy. I love it.
Even if you're not in crisis.
Even if you're not in good. Go for no reason. I
bet you we can find a reason.
I'm sure there's
try me.
Always something.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, y'all. Well, have a blessed day, and we'll see you on the next show.
Now, our favorite part, the dish.
I found so much of value in what we were talking about at the end with the emotional focus technique. Because, there's, like I was saying in the interview, there's so many people that I have a hard time helping because they just can't get out of their heads. And they can't get in their bodies.
Sometimes they refuse to get out of their heads, and they actually don't want to go into their body,
totally
straight up.
somehow I can always get people into their bodies no matter who they are. But boy, some of them I just want to send them to her in the future. We were giggling at the end. We're like, because after you left, we're like, yeah, well, maybe I might be sending some of my people to you. She's like, yeah, after they work with me, they should work with you. I'm like, yeah, before they work with me, they should work with you.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I really dug, I really loved, which I'm sure I've heard this before, but I hadn't remembered it so clearly, was those 7, from psychology, the 7
I think it was
different styles.
if you
No,
include
it's 7.
sexuality.
No, it's 7 with
Oh,
sexuality.
okay, counted it up. Okay.
Yeah. And so, different kinds of intimacy. So in honor of my manifestation process of my future life partner, which y'all know I'm doing religiously all the time, this morning, I wrote them all out. I was like, I just love the way we're so emotionally connected and so intellectually connected and sexually amazingly, and just all the things and the dreaming together, the experiential, the spiritual, and the creativity stuff. How fun to use those 7 things inside of your already existing partnership and really like pay attention to one each week or one every other day, like give one of those 7 intimacy building practices like an actual time period, where you're like focused in on that one and just see what happens to all the others. Or if you're still calling it in, use it for manifestation. Cool shit.
Yeah. One of the things, if I could just give unsolicited advice, to you and others out there, is manifest someone you fight well with.
Yeah.
Like who takes a look at disagreements and obstacles and triggers and wants to make the most out of them.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah.
I've been really grateful for Matt for our last couple of rubs. Because he would would kind of end in a disagreement, like not feeling very satisfied, right? Did he get me? Does he feel gotten? I don't feel like we really found resolution, but one of the things that I'm just knowing that I can count on him for, and I know he can count on me for this too, is like, he'll come back within 24 hours and say, hey, I want you to know, I was thinking more about that.
Nice.
And it's like, so even if it's like something isn't quite finished, like we didn't get the resolution that made us feel like, oh, we're so good now. We get there later. Like he doesn't drop the thread. He doesn't bury it underneath the rug. It's like, maybe we need to take a break because we're not finding a piece, but we're going to chew on it on our own and we'll circle back.
That's very
evolved, really
evolved,
helpful.
Enduring pattern. I love that.
But I think what's not enduring, although it might look like enduring, it's they don't stay stuck.
Yeah.
Which isn't in pattern, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Maybe it's the light side when you do an enduring pattern. Good.
Yeah, because it's still ruminating off on your own and taking some time to process and to figure it out, and then coming back with like, here's what I've figured out.
One place where we have been really staying stuck and we haven't had a breakthrough around is we need to do our estate planning.
Oh, okay.
And should one of us die, what goes where and to who? And I'm surprised that it hasn't been like a walk in the park. But we aren't seeing eye to eye on some things. And it has caused us to keep delaying this.
Yeah.
And I don't really know.
Wonder if you guys could do a bubble practice around it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try that.
Do you guys remember, audience members, the bubble? We did it recently on an LXW episode, but it's a cool practice where basically you're for a difficult conversation or for just a practice, any kind of practice, you create a bubble and you take things out of the bubble that you don't want to interfere, and you put things into the bubble that would support the practice. Good idea, Willow.
Yeah, sometimes they come through.
So wish us luck on those difficult conversations. The other thing I wanted to say on the episode but didn't get a chance to say is to talk about getting therapy before you need therapy.
Yeah, she said that at the very end.
Oh, good.
Yes, she did. She said it very loudly and clearly. It was great. She said, I said, any final words of wisdom? She said, go get therapy, even if you don't think you need it. I was like, oh, okay. I don't
Yeah.
have time for therapy, and I don't think I need it. But
Well,
if I had time, I might do it. It
you
might
know-
be relaxing.
Matt and I started therapy again, but we only have one session. We haven't gone back. We haven't
Okay.
rebooked.
Yeah.
I think we just started to feel really good again.
Mm-hmm. It's great.
Yeah, but we could use, I really like super solid, really good therapists that I don't outsmart,
Yeah.
so that they can call me on my shit.
Yes.
Because I really know how to work them, which is
That's
like so
essential.
not to my advantage,
I know.
like as I was getting ready for this last, like, therapist just going, Leah, do not do that thing,
Uh-huh.
I've been listening to I've been binge listening to
Esther
Esther Perel. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm getting so much out of it. Like,
She's a badass.
she's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
seeing so many of these like unconscious parts of myself. Like, she had this whole one on anger, and I got so much insight as to like
Cool.
how I get to like that prickle place, and like
Oh.
how sensitive I am to criticism, and like where that all comes from.
Oh
like,
my
you
gosh,
think it's
send
so
me that one.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will. Well, anyways,
Okay.
suddenly this episode's all about me, but we can wrap it up here and say thanks, Brianna.
Much love, y'all.
Thanks for tuning in. This episode was hosted by Tantric Sex Master Coach and Positive Psychology Facilitator Leah Piper, as well as by Chinese and Functional Medicine Doctor and Taoist Sexology Teacher Dr. Willow Brown. Don't forget, your comments, likes, subscribes, and suggestions matter. Let's realize this new world together.